Okay, greetings everyone. Let me get set up here, make sure everything's running. Get my link dropped. Okay. There's the link. Pin it. And it looks like we are ready. So feel free to make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe. We're just now starting. So greetings, everybody that's here at the present. Feel free to hit that panel link and join. We're talking about anonymous tips and what they lead to, how the police operate on them, and making false statements in their affidavits in order to get warrants. Anonymous tips, being anonymous, there is no affidavit. So when they issue a warrant based on a anonymous tip, what they're doing is they're saying that they did an investigation based upon that anonymous tip, and that the investigation led to certain facts and elements where they were allowed to or able to put forth their own affidavit or statements. And most of the time that's false. Most of the time those statements are based on informants and stuff like that in said investigation that never occurs. And so we're going to review a case from a few years back, 2006, I believe it was. So it's a number of years, but it's the same thing that's still going on today. And I don't comprehend why people are not catching on to this. We have there's a set of laws that the United States, quote, America, the world follows in regards to commerce. And that's all it is. It's all commercial. And that's another illusion. So we're going to take a look at a case from 2006 where somebody planted drugs and then based an affidavit, knowing that the drugs were planted, stating their affidavit that they found the drugs. And again, it's just one of those things that the police do in order to get people caught up in their web and make their job easy, because they really don't want to investigate. Investigate is too much work. It's too confusing for them. They can't discern truth from fiction. And it creates a big problem because a majority of the police believe that the police are their authority. And it's just insane. So we're going to take a look at a few videos here. And notice I put a fair use review for commentary. Again, anybody that wants to come up on panel and place their commentary, that's great. I would appreciate that. But again, we're just reviewing material so we can base our own knowledge on what we're seeing and give our own discernment on it. So we're going to start out with one from Fox News that had Napolitano. Let's see here. We're doing the wrong one here. Sorry about that. I got too many windows open. Okay. Now this is the former Judge Napolitano. He was on Fox News back at the time. And he had a discussion with Barry Cooper, who was the one that helped bring this Yolanda Madden out of prison based on those false drug charges, the planting of drugs and stuff. And Barry Cooper used to be a police officer himself, and he is now Cop Buster, KOPBUSTER on YouTube. I suggest subscribing to him. He's got some good videos. Tells you like it is. one of the very few people out there like Eddie Craig that used to be police officers, and they're now and have been for numbers of years putting out valid information that does and will help anybody that needs it. So again, don't believe me, don't believe your neighbor, don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother, and certainly don't believe Eddie Craig or Barry Cooper or anybody or Napolitano. Do your research so you know. So that's why I'm doing this review here. We've got a few videos. Let's get started with Napolitano. And again, that StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that wants to come up. I will also be dropping my Wordwise Warrior donation link. So I would certainly appreciate that. And again, just remember, it's a matter of sharing love. It's not a buying or selling of any products or services for imports and exports. We're giving out free education. Anybody who wants to share some love in that, feel free to do so. So let's get going. Napolitano speaking with Barry Cooper about losing his son after he exposed the police department for their corruption and planting drugs on Yolanda Madden. The U.S. government determined that he was not capable of raising his own children because he was telling the world truths. That is just insane.
The families and burned billions of taxpayer dollars. How long shall we live in a police state? For decades, the government has waged a cruel war on us in the name of fighting vice and sin. The war on drugs has affected millions of lives and destroyed thousands of families and burned billions of taxpayer dollars and made the streets more dangerous because of the government's unconstitutional and ill-conceived efforts to attempt to regulate private human behavior. The war on drugs is a failure on every level: moral, constitutional, and economic. In Austin, Texas, Barry Cooper is a former narcotics officer. He is also a candidate for Texas Attorney General. His outspoken advocacy for the end of the ill-begotten vice war has brought him under the ire of the state, declaring him an unfit parent. The state has taken away his child, Zach, and cited as a specific reason that Barry and his wife, quote, are unsuitable, and create an environment where the children believe the government is out to harm them. One has to wonder, how much harm has Mr. Cooper done compared to the government stealing property, stealing freedom, and in this case, kidnapping his child? The parents in question are Barry and Candy Cooper, long known to authorities in the area as opponents of the drug war and of big government, and filmmakers who have called for the legalization of marijuana. One of the Child Protective Services reports was written by a police sergeant with a long history of pursuing narcotics cases. Might he have had a grudge against the Coopers? Does marijuana activism or even misdemeanor possession of small amounts of marijuana make the Coopers unfit parents? Barry Cooper joins me now. Barry, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Glad to be back, Judge.
So how is Zach, and where is he right now?
Well, Zach is in East Texas now with his natural father. He hired a lawyer that I sued for $10 million, hired the lawyer that Williamson County Sheriff's Department had him hire to file temporary restraining orders against us. And this all happened 5 days after we busted a Williamson County detective stealing drug money in one of our cop buster stings, and which turned into a misdemeanor raid on our house, full felony SWAT style. It's just ridiculous, and it was crazy. By the way, in family court last week, they admitted my last interview with you into evidence, and they're going to try to use that against me.
Wow. Well, they're going to try and use your free speech against you and your defense of freedom. I challenge them to do that. Tell us about the sting.
Yes, I challenge them to do that. That's what Paul and I are doing. We're challenging everybody in their freedom to speech. If you're going to speak something, make sure it's damn well fucking true. Because when this kind of shit gets into a court forum and you're able to prove that it's not, then there's trouble. Then there's real controversy. Then there's proof that there's a violation of rights. Not until then. Otherwise, everybody sits in those courtrooms babbling back and forth. Your freedom of speech is not just a freedom to say whatever the fuck you want.
That you pulled on the police, and then I'll ask you about the pre-dawn raid on your home.
Okay, well, we had done a sting a couple years ago in Odessa, which resulted in the release of Yolanda Madden from prison. The judge realized that she had drugs planted on her, and we were successful getting her out of federal prison. Coming off that success, I went into Williamson County and placed a bag in front of a Captain Nasar there that had money, a simulated crack pipe, and a hidden GPS unit and a drug ledger. And I filmed him throwing that bag in the garbage and keeping the drug money. I had an HBO film crew there with me when we confronted the chief of police, and I aired it on YouTube for free for everybody to see this captain stealing money. And 5 days later, that county raided my house.
Before we get to what happened to your house, is he still a captain? Is he still a police officer? Has any disciplinary or prosecutorial action been taken against this guy?
No, just like the officers that planted the drugs on Yolanda in Odessa, nothing has happened to them. And so far, nothing's happened to this captain. In fact, I've been told the Texas Rangers are not going to investigate it, that there's not enough evidence, which is.
So what we have is people that are willing to go on a tip, an anonymous tip, one tip with no evidence, not investigate it, make an arrest by planting evidence so they can make that arrest and enter that evidence into evidence. But yet when you put one of them under investigation, there's not enough evidence, even if you have all kinds of information like HBO film crews filming them red-handed with a first-hand witness. This is ridiculous, people. This is why you do not belong in them courts. The only reason you would go into them courts is to lie. Otherwise, you stand before God, your only judge.
Ludicrous.
Is the state of Texas actually arguing to a Texas judge that they can remove Zach lawfully in the custody of you, the stepfather, and your wife, his natural mother, because you have raised a 7-year-old to question authority?
Actually, those were the accusations Williamson County made to the state CPS. They assigned one of the top investigators of CPS to this case because of the media potential. And CPS actually did a good job. They cleared us, said we were a good family. The district attorney in Travis County said we were a good family, and all the kids looked happy, healthy, and well cared for. But by then it was too late. Judges and lawyers there that hate me.
And this is of particular importance here. I urge everyone, pick up the scriptures and read them and learn how to correlate those with their laws and tear them apart. Deuteronomy 24, anyone caught stealing one of the children of the brethren of Israel and making merchandise of them shall be put to death. You shall remove evil away from amongst you. There is no reason to take a man's child, particularly because he's spouting off against the government when the United States as that government is nothing but a commercial entity under 28 USC 3002. Explicitly, it's a federal corporation. And then under federal government, definition for federal government, 5 CFR 575.102 says federal government means all entities of the government of the United States, including the United States Postal Service and the Postal Regulatory Commission. So where do they get their authority? That warrant, that's a judicial, or that's a administrative warrant. They had nothing for a judicial warrant. Nothing.
Is Zach going to come back to where he belongs?
Judge, we're praying. In 90 days, we have a final hearing, and we're going to put that in front of a jury. We're trying to get venue changed to Travis County because of my activism and wanting to legalize marijuana, they're bringing all that up in the conservative East Texas courts, and it doesn't look good for us there.
I think you should bring an action in federal court. And I think
Exactly. I've been telling people for a number of years now, you don't belong in those state administrative courts. If you're going to go any court under administration, you go to the federal court, Supreme Court of the United States. And if you look at their form AO430, when the state prosecutes as a plaintiff, that form AO430 at the Supreme Court level says the plaintiff is the debtor and the defendant is the creditor. I don't know why you wouldn't go to federal court. That's the judicial determination right there on their form, period. Napolitano is absolutely correct.
you should accuse these police of kidnapping your child because of your First Amendment activities, which
Imagine that. Kidnapping is the charge, as I mentioned, Deuteronomy 24:7. I didn't watch this video first, guys. This is all new to me as well. First time viewing. It's only the caption that caught me because I investigated that Yolanda Madden case. And it's all based on a anonymous tip. And coincidentally, that anonymous tip, he made an error and he had a number off on the license plate, so they got the wrong vehicle. They weren't even looking for Yolanda. They weren't looking for any man or woman. They were looking for a vehicle.
are absolutely protected outside the home and within. Last question. How's the race for Attorney General? Boy, this would really put them in their place if you win this. How's the race for Attorney General of Texas going?
Well, it doesn't look like I'll win because of the raid and my son being taken. The Cop Busters reality show is on hold. We were really close to selling it, which was going to give me the money and the television presence that I needed to win Texas Attorney General. But no worries. I'm going to regroup and come back strong. We are fighting for the freedoms of other Americans. Our family was retaliated against, and all that will come out in federal court, like you said, because we are about to file a $40 million lawsuit against those police agents.
And Zach will be returned to the loving family from which he was stolen. Barry Cooper, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Now, I haven't researched on that particular part of it yet, but we're hoping that he was, so I will check that out and find out. The next one we're going to look at. We're going to take a look at this one first. This is a short.
A year since former Odessa police officer Barry Cooper set up a fake drug house to sting the Odessa Police Department on his reality show Cop Busters.
Today, the family that hired Cooper and his crew to set up the sting are getting what they want, another hearing for their daughter, Yolanda Madden. CBS 7's Jordan Reagan sat in on this morning's hearing. He joins us now live in the newsroom with what happened in court today. Jordan?
Yolanda Madden was arrested and convicted of federal drug charges in 2005, but her family says the drugs were planted and they've got evidence to prove it. Today, they got their chance to present some of that evidence in the evidentiary hearing in federal court in Midland. Last year, Cop Busters Barry Cooper set out to show that the Odessa Police Department obtained search warrants illegally, but he also wanted to raise publicity for what Yolanda Madden's family says is a wrongful conviction.
I'm excited that we had a hand in getting Yolanda to this point, but I'm bitter of the pain that this has caused Yolanda and her kids and her family. So it's bittersweet to me.
Many in attendance hoped today's hearing would change things for the Madden family, but a decision has yet to be reached.
I'm not happy with the hearing today because I fully expected Yolanda to be released today to go back to her kids and family for Thanksgiving.
For some family members, it was their first time to see Yolanda in quite a while.
Her family's in there, her grandmother's in there, her kids are in there, and she comes in there shackled like a dog. That's absolutely uncalled for.
She testified today, along with two of the police officers who the family says intentionally framed Yolanda for her possession charges. But the judge made it clear that the purpose of today's hearing was only to take a second look at the evidence that could have changed the outcome of the original trial.
I think they went as well as we could expect. The judge limited us to a very, very small part of a 2255 hearing.
They presented some of the forms from the booking phase of Yolanda's arrest, which they say were tampered with and shouldn't hold up in the court of law.
If we'd have had some information that we didn't have at that time, and there was a lot of information we did not get from the prosecution, if we'd had that information, would the trial have been different? The answer to that is absolutely it would have been different.
This is called the discovery phase. When you go into discovery phase, the prosecution is supposed to give you all of their evidence, and when they don't, that's violation of due process as well. When the judge allows it, that's treason from the bench. So let's go on to the next one. Oh, I guess that's it. Just the two. My apologies. So, oh no, wait a minute. We got another one. Sorry. This one's a little bit longer, and this one's Judge Napolitano on the actual raid itself. And he's gonna, I'm sure, another one I have not watched, but I love Napolitano. He's one of the most reasonable men I've ever found in modern history that we can sit here and actually listen to. And I believe he's gonna give you some light on what's actually going on when they do these raids and things like that, the process that they're using, because he, like I said, he was a Supreme Court justice. So whether you think he's corrupt or not, I urge you to pay attention to his words that he's using and how he speaks.
You realize the failure of the war on drugs when someone tasked with combating it switches sides.
A one-time Texas drug agent described by his former boss as one of the best narcotics officers in the country.
Barry Cooper, Copbuster.
And by the way, Copbuster on YouTube, it's KOP space BUSTER, and then he's also got his own site, www. What is it?
Copbusters.
Controversial.
Arrested. Vigilante.
Questionable.
Tiny Christmas trees. Copbusters.
Controversial.
Arrested. Vigilante.
See if I can find it. Oh, it's Never Get Busted Again. Or nevergetbusted.com. Nevergetbusted.com. So that's his actual site, nevergetbusted.com, and then Copbuster on YouTube.
Vigilante.
Questionable.
Tiny Christmas trees. Watchdog.
Illegal.
The Texas Rangers are investigating a sting Cooper carried out against Odessa police officers in 2008.
Welcome back to the Lackluster Channel. Barry Cooper was once one of the nation's top canine and narcotics officers. During his tenure, he realized that the
one of the nation's top. One of the nation's top. They touted him as the top in his line of work, yet he can't raise his children. You see how stupid that is? You see what's happening? It is truly the government coming against you. Those people in the government, when they get butthurt and they use that system against you, they're using the system against you before you even get butthurt. It's like I told Drew, just because you haven't been in court doesn't mean you ain't going to be there. Then he turns around and says, well, I have been in court, but I'm not going there no more. The fuck you ain't. As soon as somebody else decides on an anonymous tip that you ain't nothing special, they're going to take you to court. That's how it works.
war on drugs was immoral and ineffective, his new understanding caused him to shift directions, and he created the Never Get Busted video series to teach people how to never get caught. Soon, he realized that he knew all the cops' dirty little secrets, like how they make a canine false alert, how officers use confidential informants to plant narcotics, and much more. With that wealth of information, he decided it was time to start busting bad cops. This story begins with the arrest of Yolanda Madden, a single mother of two with no criminal history or issues with addiction. In 2005, she was arrested for possession.
Any drugs or weapons in there? What's your truck? My dad's doing drugs in there right now. Weapons?
Nothing at all. Mind if we check it? We got information that's supposed to be drugs in there.
Though she was 100% innocent, she was convicted, and due to the weight of the illicit substance, she was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Yolanda's father had overwhelming evidence that the substances used to convict her were planted by a confidential informant who had accidentally hit the wrong target. Her father contacted Barry Cooper, as he not only ran Cop Busters, but he also previously worked in the area with some of the same officers involved. Barry decided to take action to catch the officers by setting up a fake grow house in the district, hoping that by doing so, he could prove Yolanda's conviction was sourced by unlawful and unconstitutional actions of the officers involved. So in December of 2008, Barry found a vacant house and put tinfoil over the windows. He brought in grow lights and ventilation systems, all for the care and nurture for 2 small pine tree saplings, and to trigger an illegal raid by the Odessa Police Department.
Police are not supposed to run a search warrant or make an arrest on an anonymous tip alone.
Right.
And this Vice unit has a habit of lying on search warrants and claiming they had an informant go in and see drugs in the house, and then they raid the house. We used to do it when I worked for them. If we couldn't get the evidence we needed and we wanted to raid the house, we lied and said an informant went in there.
So now, with Barry's pine sapling nursery set up.
My apologies, I forgot I muted. So when they go into a house based on some informant without doing any investigation and then write an affidavit, that's false. That's hearsay. Again, when they get an anonymous tip, they're supposed to do a proper investigation to get them that information, to get them that evidence. And again, we have them, HBO has all the evidence they need, but that's not enough evidence. It's not even hearsay. It's not even an anonymous tip. It's actual proof and evidence. And that's not enough evidence. Yet at the same time, they'll take an anonymous tip and not do an investigation, come forth with evidence that isn't there. How do you suppose they would have managed some kind of evidence on this affidavit? Yeah, we found 2 small spruce trees growing.
Cameras were installed to survey the property, and it didn't take long for the Odessa Police Department to arrive at the location as planned. With weapons drawn, the officers enter the residence and systematically clear the house room by room. They finally make it to the room hosting the Christmas tree grove and realize that their anonymous tip was false.
Pine trees growing. Camera got all this stuff.
Before leaving, they noticed a Cop Busters t-shirt pinned to the wall, alongside a note addressing the officers that read, "You are the focus of a new reality TV show called Cop Busters. There's nobody in the house and nothing illegal has happened. We will be approaching to interview you with cameras. Our crew will be in red t-shirts, like the one on the wall." The officers then find the surveillance equipment and leave just as quickly as they arrived.
Yeah, because they got...
You notice how they were preemptive. They prepared it. This is the way I operate. I have a bicycle driver's license in my wallet for a reason. Because it's just as facetious as theirs. Has zero value unless I put value into it. Period. Has no credence, no credit.
this camera here. They got 2 in there, and all the monitors are running up there in the cabinet. You can hear it running. So we can set up.
We're talking to the United States Attorney, so if you would, please not touch anything.
I'm not. I got my hands in my pocket.
We'll find out what we need to do with the camera.
They suddenly realize we're streaming live. Got my hands in my pockets. You've already been caught red-handed, fuckers. What's up, Flow State?
What's going on, man?
Not much. How about yourself?
Oh, just putting on I'm lifting my truck, and I was doing the last wheel, and I saw your subject matter and thought I'd jump in. I like the topic.
Yeah, we're talking about these anonymous tips that these cops get and then go in and do raids without any investigation whatsoever. But yet when you catch them red-handed with HBO, full film, and a first-hand witness, that's not enough evidence to investigate.
Yeah, I got raided 3 times in 2017, and one of the things in the affidavit for the search warrant was an anonymous tip.
Yeah, and that means that you've got somebody that said that they were in there, saw activities, made a first-hand witness statement, but won't put his name on it and won't testify to it in court.
They didn't even attest to being a first-hand witness in the anonymous tip.
Yeah, the anonymous tip can't be a first-hand witness if it's anonymous.
And it was a poaching claim, which is absurd. I'm too lazy to hunt legally. But game wardens are like super cops, which I found out the day that I got my door kicked in and I was floating. I woke up floating out the front door in handcuffs. One game warden rushed in, cuffed me in bed, and just by himself I'm 6'1", like 200, a little over 200 pounds, just carrying me out like nothing.
Yep. It's amazing what they will go to, the lengths that they will go to secure their employment, because that's all they're doing. If it weren't for them creating at least 50% of the criminal activity, is what I'm going to say. That's the other half that they don't commit, they're still a critical component of the crime mechanism. If it weren't for prohibition, we wouldn't have black markets. Right. That's like Prohibition era. They found out in Prohibition that they were losing money because of the Prohibition. So what they did was they started acting like the mob and took on the mob's business practices. That's all they did. And if you look at the number of police deaths by year, there's like none until Prohibition, and they skyrocket, and then they fall right off when it ends, and then they shoot right back up when the war on drugs starts. Yep, exactly. And that's because they're the ones bringing controversy against people that are doing their natural activities. You can't outlaw natural activities. Period. So let's get back to it. We'll finish this up, and then we'll go into discussion. Yes, sir.
And just as the sign on the wall said, Barry Cooper and his camera crew were traveling to the house to film the officers' reactions to getting caught in the execution of an illegally obtained search warrant.
There's another car behind them. Right behind them.
Oh, yeah, baby.
That's it.
They're about to raid it. And Jason, you can tell
they're in.
They're in. Hang on.
They're in.
They're raiding it.
They kicked in the back door.
They're in. Back door.
They kicked in the back door. I didn't see it. They got Adam in front yard cuffed.
Handcuffed. They got Adam cuffed. Let them cuff all of us. Get these cameras ready.
All right. What? We're just pulling up.
They're just about to leave.
Go.
Go. Right here. Stop. Right here. You got the cameras. Get them out. Ready?
Let's go.
Hey, I'm Barry Cooper with Top Busters. Why are you in my house? What? Do you have a search warrant? I'm busy making sure these Odessa cops quit planting drugs on people. So you've been caught in a...
Free Yolanda.
Look, we're trying to cooperate. We're not giving nobody no hassle.
You did too. Y'all planted drugs on Yolanda and she's in prison because of it. That's giving people a hassle. You guys are wrong on this one and you know it and you got burned.
I'll show you the paper. That's what they did.
Oh, I want to see the affidavit. What judge signed an affidavit? There's nothing illegally going on unless y'all lied on that affidavit.
Okay.
What did you say to get in there?
Yeah.
What happened?
Talk to the detective.
Restaurant Store, for whatever your restaurant needs. Most products
Worry
ship
about
free
ads.
with Restaurant Plus.
Worry about ads.
After we set the trap house, it was the cops' job to do a proper investigation. And had they investigated properly, they never would have raided the house.
The information obtained by this.
Had they investigated properly, they'd have known they'd been being set up. This is how dumb they are when they don't follow the investigation procedures. Because sooner or later, people are going to catch on to this tactic, and they're going to start getting set up all over the world, not just this nation, but around the world. And this is what I've been telling people about them nice little devices known as phones and stuff. You should be using those.
This operation was used to prove that the Odessa Police Department lied on affidavits used to obtain search warrants and eventually freed Yolanda Madden.
Tonight, Yolanda Madden is a free woman, and she says she was falsely imprisoned for 4 years.
Today, District Judge Rob Junell vacated her sentence.
Sure. Hey! Yolanda! Wow! Hey, Brandon. Good to see you, bro.
Because of the setup, Yolanda.
You guys hear that? Vacated the sentence. Does that sound like vacation?
Is this Odessa, Missouri?
Yes, I believe so.
It's right beside me.
Yeah, Yolanda Madden, 2005, picked up for drug charges, and the drugs were planted by the officers because a informant gave them a license plate number and happened to misstate the plate number, or they misread the plate number and got her instead of the actual one they were informing on. The poor lady spent 4 years out of an 8-year sentence in prison with children that missed out 4 years of their life on mom. This is sick. And like he said before, like Napolitano said, he would suggest him to go to federal and charge him with kidnapping. I would do the same thing right out the gate. I don't care if it's a child or an adult. It's a child of Israel, and they're making merchandise of him in those courts. That is kidnapping according to Scripture, which is the law of the land under Public Law 97-280.
Yolanda spent 4 years of her life in prison, despite her innocence. The police chief responded to the fake grow house operation by calling Barry Cooper immature and juvenile.
In a statement, Odessa Police Chief Timothy Burton calls Cooper's actions juvenile and irresponsible,
claiming that his actions were potentially illegal and wasted the time of law enforcement and taxpayer money. Barry eventually ran for Texas Attorney General, but his contributions to help end the drug war brought him under the ire of the state. The police ran a search warrant on his home to seize his Cop Busters videos. Not narcotics, videos.
executed a search warrant on Cooper's home. They confiscate his camera equipment, videos, and computers.
After the raid, they arrested him 3 times and his wife once under misdemeanor charges related to the Sting videos. All charges were later dismissed.
All except, of course, the ones on taking the children. You see how they go after you? Just because they get butthurt? Because they're not doing their job and they think they get to do whatever the fuck they want. They think the rules apply to you but not to them. This is bullshit, people. It's been going on way too long, and you need to start fucking standing up.
The other way that they go after you and sort of undermine your ability to defend yourself is by overcharging you, because your bail is set according to your charges. So if you're locked in jail and they've charged you with way more shit than you're guilty of, there's no recourse for them. They can't get in trouble for frivolously overcharging you, but you can't get bonded out. You also can't get an attorney retainer.
Right. And that's part of the problem. People going to the attorneys and paying the bail. I will sit in jail. I won't sign a fucking thing. And you better let me out because you created an international incident. I am not a national. I am not a U.S. citizen. I am not a resident. And that record will prove it. How do I know? Because I'm the one that put the data elements in there, and it was an error. I didn't realize back then what I know now. And now that I know what I know and you're not listening to me, that's the violation. That's the treason. That's the kidnapping. Once you know, you now have a duty based upon that knowledge. You can't just dismiss what somebody's saying and not look at it. If it's in your code and that's what you're supposed to go by, you can't say we don't go by federal code. The fuck you don't. You go by international code. And this is what I don't understand. Everybody thinks that they don't go by federal code. The fuck they don't. They go by UCC. They go by administrative code. They go by probationary code. They go by tax code. They go by everything in commerce. It's all commerce. Period.
But while he fought them, the U.S. government took his child and declared him and his wife an unfit parent for teaching them about the dangerous arms of the state.
The state has taken away his...
They took the one. Zach. He's got 3. Him and his wife have 2. And then he had custody from a previous marriage.
Child Zach, and cited as a specific reason that Barry and his wife, quote, are unsuitable and create an environment where the children believe the government is out to harm them. How much harm has Mr. Cooper done compared to the government? Stealing property, stealing freedom, and in this case, kidnapping his child.
And because of the alleged retaliation, Barry and his family fled to South America for asylum in 2011.
I can't hear you, and I think that that's you, probably not me. Maybe.
Yeah, that's me again. I'm not so great at this. I had myself muted again. But here we are. We're looking at a man that's being chased out of the country by his own people in the nation or the country he was born in. That's pretty fucking sick. When you have the ability and are told to throw off a despotic government, that when you do so, that very government comes after you, particularly when that government ain't nothing but a fucking corporation. And it's only because 98% of the people in this fucking country are asleep, claiming they're United States citizens and willing to be on a jury, claiming they're a United States citizen. See, that's another reason they can't take me to court. Put me on trial. Trial of my peers where? Every last one of them is carrying around an ID that says they're a United States citizen. The United States doesn't have a fucking birth registry. How can you be born in the United States if there's no birth registry? Dumbasses. It's just fucking ignorant. Learn how to read. Listen to people. Don't believe them and do your research and see if you read the same fucking thing.
Did you learn all this stuff in prison?
No, I went to prison for 3.5 years when I was 18.
Oh, shit. That's been a while.
Yeah. That was in my young days when I first broke out into this world as a young adult, tried to get in the military, and they turned me down, says I wasn't in physical shape well enough to be in the Army. Had a bad knee and a bad ear. Said they didn't care about the knee. It was the ear they were worried about because they were afraid I couldn't hear them.
I asked because you have a lot of knowledge memorized, and nobody's better read than inmates.
Well, I did all my reading outside of prison. See, that's one of those things I mentioned. It's a shame. We've got all our younger generations coming out of high school, graduating, and not picking up another book. It's sad.
Well, we're being trained to hate learning.
Yeah. Well, it's like this guy and his kid. The government doesn't want him teaching his kids because he's teaching them right. They don't want the younger generations to know. So they will do everything in their power to separate. That's what this whole system is about.
I had the when I was in jail, I had the jail administrator come back to general population and flip out on me because I was helping people read their paperwork.
Yeah, and it's just stupid. Why would you do that? I mean, this whole thing is about helping each other. Oh, no man anything but to love one another. So when we're in those facilities and they're telling us not to do certain things that are of our nature, that should also tell you something. It surprises me because I live so deeply on instincts, and I think that's what most people are missing. They've been the instincts have been bred out of us. You know, we're this sophisticated, civilized being. No, we're not. No, we are not. We are creatures of God, just like the smallest bird. He will take care of us.
Barry Cooper is now a criminal defense expert witness that testifies against false alerts by dogs performing free air sniffs, search and seizure issues, and much more. He is also an international aide that helps train search and rescue canines around the world. He now refuses to train narcotics canines.
International aid, again, obviously not capable of raising his own children, right? Fucking moronic, people.
Netflix has taken an interest in his life and activism, and a 4-part docuseries is currently being produced with an expected release in 2023. Barry and I are currently working together to create a live-streamed video podcast. The show will air in the coming weeks on the Never Get Busted YouTube channel. You can find all the original content used to produce this video on that channel and our new show by using the links in the description and pinned comment. So be sure to head over there and check out his videos. He left a special message just for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the live show soon.
I smoke pot, but I don't inhale.
That was a pretty good ending. Welcome, Timmy. Welcome, Steve. How's it going, brothers?
Hey, brother. What's up, Keith? Going pretty well, man.
So what do you think? I got a few more pages we're going to look at here in regards to hearsay and stuff on LII Wex. But what do you got so far?
Well, it's great they exposed them for, falsifying warrants or bypassing them, and getting those convictions. I mean, it got that girl out, right?
Yeah, and that's what we need to do is I tell people that when I get involved with people, I'm bringing the truth right up front. If there isn't truth in it right from the front, then I'm not going to have anything to do with it. And that's the same thing I do with any paperwork that's presented to me. So if it's presented in fiction, guess what? It's filled with comments that are invention, fiction, and fabrications. So all I got to do is point out, listen, you're trying to communicate, which is the conveyance of a debt. I'd like to spread a message, which is the gospel, the word of truth. And that is to owe no man anything but to love one another. For if to love one another, that is the fulfillment of the law. And they all have to agree to that because that's the scriptures they follow. I don't have to follow them. I only follow them because I get to use them against them. Kind of like Paul, I can't believe Jesus is real because he's not here now. I can believe Jesus was real, and I can read the message, the verses and the stories and everything, and get something out of it to make my life positive. That's all.
They don't actually follow any of the stuff that you're saying they follow. They reference them for justification.
Right. But what it is, it's they don't write it down in their laws, because if you look at the way everything's structured, it's just a matter of adoption. They're only adopting what everybody else believes in. So when you go to vote, you're giving them your opinion on what you believe in, and so they make laws on it. That's all it is. And they're just adopting your opinion. You're the one giving them all the comments, inventions, fabrications, and fictions. So they write it up in nice, fancy colored words to, oh yeah, so you can read it and say, yeah, there you go, that's real, that's true. No one should be able to own an AR-15 because that's not a hunting weapon. That's an assault rifle. Really? Who defined it as an assault rifle? I'll bet if the first gun that was invented looked like that, it'd be a gun. Isn't a gun the same thing? It's to assault something. What's the difference? It's all about the words and terms and conditions you're placing on them and yourselves out of your beliefs. Why do you keep believing? So let's look at this next one. I've got hearsay pulled up on LIIWEX. And it says hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of whatever it asserts, which is then offered in evidence to prove the truth of the matter. So we have the truth of what it asserts, and it has to be in alignment with the truth of the matter. So it's the subject matter we're talking about. The problem with hearsay is that when the person being quoted is not present, it becomes impossible to establish credibility. However, it becomes impossible. In other words, it isn't possible to have credit by the statement itself is false. And what we're talking about here is if somebody makes a statement that's true, but then passes on, his statement in accordance to himself and his estate would still be true, as in his own truth, his own will, as a living will and testament. And that's why these probate courts have no jurisdiction over the living man, and yet you walk in there as a volunteer. Volunteer for what? A volunteer to represent the person, which is the fiction, and you have no qualifications to do so. So you're automatically guilty. Automatically guilty. You're not qualified as a trustee. You just want to get up there and act like it.
I wanted to say before, I mean, I disagree with Flosay. Flosay saying that they don't follow law. I think they do. I mean, you went in there and you took a plea, dude. So, I mean, that aligned with your conviction.
Why do you think that?
Wrong. You said you already. I'm pretty sure.
No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about broadly. Why do you think they follow the law they reference?
Because, I mean, they have to get your consent. You convict yourself. You convicted yourself. If you did no wrong,
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about broadly. I know you want to talk about me taking a plea deal, but why do you think that cops and courts follow the law instead of just doing what they want and saying they follow the law?
The courts are following law. You go because okay, we're not talking about you. All these beings go in there and acquiesce to their jurisdiction, which makes it real. And then
so
on the flip side of that,
you don't have any experience that would lead you to believe that they follow the law. You're speculating.
No, sir. See, you don't understand what law and what courts and what records are. Because all of the lawful stuff happens outside of the fucking bullshit courts before shit gets to court. It's called honorable settlement. It's called noticing.
I'm not talking to you about the law. I'm talking to you about actions. Why do you think that their actions are determined by the law? Because my claim is that their actions aren't dictated by the law. The law is referenced as justification for their actions, which are wildly outside of it.
Well, I mean, some men at some times do wrongs. And obviously, if you think those are unlawful, then you can press a claim at a court of law and run a court. But nobody knows how to do that anymore. We all forgot that. They're all probate courts. They're all courts of complaint.
So if nobody knows, including the cops and judges, like, why would anybody play the game? Even if you're 100% right, nobody is operating that way in the real world. So I'm trying to say, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm in letter of law. I don't know if you are or not. What I'm saying is that you're wrong in the way that things play out in the real world.
I disagree. I mean, show me again, show me when. Go ahead, Wiz. Go ahead.
I'll disagree too, because I think what he's getting at is that when I make my presentations, they're always in private. That is following the law. They're following the law that if you voluntarily go into the court, that's what their law says. If you volunteer, then so be it.
Yeah, which I haven't done, and I have warrants right now, and it's fine. You know, like I've learned a little bit as I go along.
Yeah, that's what you point out to him. Unless that warrant has validity of a Article 3 grand jury indictment, which can't possibly be, because nobody's had a grand jury indictment yet. It's still done under the premise of an affidavit presented to the judge. So the warrant itself can't be possible, because again, you can't just go bringing somebody in without a grand jury indictment as a defendant. That's a voluntary position because it's a commercial administrative court. So unless
I'm not worried about the warrant either. Like it's been there for a while, and I've dealt with cops since then, and like it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's a nothing burger unless you volunteer, and that's what people aren't getting. They think that, oh my God, I got this traffic citation, I got to go to court. No, you don't. No, you don't. I don't give a fuck what they say.
Right. That's the thing.
That's a threat.
I just recently got out a red light ticket here in Florida. They wanted to charge me $253. I never paid it. They had it on the docket. You can search public records. They sold that debt to a third agency, and when they contacted me, I said, cease and desist. You own that debt now. I'm free and clear. Didn't pay a dime.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You like they're presuming that you're a slave, and they send you a paper, and then they write in all capitals warrant, and then everybody thinks, oh, now I'm fucked, because you're accepting the presumption of jurisdiction. And then when you react to it and acquiesce, it's done. You're finished, because your conviction is proven by your actions, by you probably not acting in honor, not communicating with a negotiable instrument in private, which is just a notice, and pretend like asking them why they think they have jurisdiction. And this is just conviction.
It's the main argument is fighting for jurisdiction. Is correct.
Oh yeah, I mean, and so I keep saying this to folks, and no, I've been asking this for months, and nobody has come forth to me. I keep asking the same question. Somebody please show me a situation where they didn't have a contract that they agreed to do X, and they didn't do wrong, and they acted in honor with private notices to the corporation that's alleging or complaining that they did something wrong. Show me where they acted in honor and wrote private notices, and maybe even they showed up in court and acted in honor and challenged personal jurisdiction, and show me where they still got fucked. Because I'd really like to see it, because I never see it. I keep looking, but everybody always wants to give me these examples of like, oh, well, this guy, this happened. And I'm like, well, I look at it for 15 minutes and he's just like belligerent in court, never noticed anybody in honor in the private, has past contracts saying, I accept 20 years of income. And then he gets thrown in federal prison for fucking evading income taxes because he said he would pay income tax for 20 years. And then on the 21st year, he just decided, oh, you know what, this is unconstitutional. That's how it works, guys. This is, or at least this is my belief. I'll say that. So I'm only a year in to this. So, but again, like I have a high IQ, I guess, and I've been, I think, acting in honor for most of my life. So again, show me all these situations where all these courts are just like dragging people in that don't give them consent, that don't give them jurisdiction, that don't have contracts. Like this isn't happening yet.
Tim, is acting in honor a legal term that has a specific meaning, or is that just how you're referring to your intentions?
I don't speak legalese. I don't know legal terms. Acting in honor just means in good faith communications, like as best you can, and dealing with things in good faith.
And again, I have to disagree with you, Timmy, because what you have before you is a financial index from the local courthouse where I live, and it says general/civil, criminal, and full. And you notice it's darkened as it's full, so it gives both criminal and general. And notice it says last.
I don't know what you're looking at, but we're looking at some dude's face.
Yeah, that's a share screen from mine. I was hoping that Keith would play it whenever he gets a chance.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. You'd have to drop a link in the private chat for me.
No, Keith, are you showing something to me while explaining this, or no?
Okay, can you see it now?
Yep.
Oh yeah, got it.
Okay, what you have before you is a financial index, and they have general, civil, and then criminal, and then full. And you notice it's filled in as full, so it's got both criminal and civil cases. And for all of them, whether it be general, civil, or criminal, all of them, they listed it as last/firm. And notice this is LITT and not LITTLE. It does not include the last two letters of the last name. So what they've done with the slash in grammar means you can substitute. So they substituted a firm name. I am not a firm. I've never had a firm. I've never run a business like that. And therefore, what they've done is they've converted a record.
Right.
Okay. By converting the data elements. I never used LITT in any record anywhere. Nowhere in my entire life. So this is a data element they converted mine from to. So they converted the last name to a firm name.
Right.
This is the Social Security number. You notice there's no dashes. Again, they converted a number which used to have 11 characters to a number that only has 9 characters by removing the 2 dashes that signify that it's a Social Security number. And now all of a sudden it becomes an obligor.
Okay.
Who's the obligee? Who's the obligee? That would be me. Keith. Payor. Who would that be? That would be the financial institution I assigned to make the payment, the director. Bureau of Public Debt. Okay, so they gave me a document with enough information just on this part right here. And then, of course, it's got the case ID number, but the ID number isn't in here because it's a full financial index. So it includes all cases. And I just send it to the Bureau of Public Debt with a directive under 50 U.S.C. 4305 for full acquittance and discharge, where no person shall be held liable in any court. Now,
yeah, but this is your commercial jurisdiction now, no?
No, it's a zero commercial jurisdiction because why would I do this? Because I've already contacted the U.S. Treasury through the Treasury Offset Program, and they verified that there is no public debts listed against my name and number for public or private. Therefore, the full acquittance and discharge where no person shall be held liable in any court seems reasonable to me because I'm the one that entered all those errors. They only went by what I erred in. Now I'm correcting the record and there is zero value, and I put zero value in there. Those records will show that I gave no value. They only got value after the investment was made on the bond, which I knew nothing about. So now it comes to reconciliation of the bonds. Yeah, see, I don't know how to play that. Let me see here.
Can I play this video, Keith?
Wait, I'm confused on where the disagreement was though. With
I did not put
because they're not operating within the law if they're converting. Whereas if you volunteer because you don't know, then they're presuming that they're operating the law because they presume you should know.
Yeah, I mean, so what's the? I'm still not understanding. So what is the core of the disagreement? Because I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying when people consent to all this stuff, they don't really know what they're consenting to, But I mean, I mean, then they shouldn't be signing. Just because they're signing under duress or intimidation, well, that's just unlawful on its face.
Right.
And
but
you
by
can't
them
do that.
signing, but by them signing, it gives an implication that they're part of the record because they gave them the data.
Oh, okay. I hear you.
That's
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Indoctrination. You shouldn't be addressing those. You shouldn't be addressing those courts at all. You should be doing everything privately. Go ahead and Steve, and see if you can play that. I'm going to remove this here, and let me see here. Yeah, I don't have a link here. If I had a link here in the private chat, I would be able to play it. But otherwise, go ahead and see if you can play it.
Yeah, so in your StreamYard, I have it added as to present. So you can click on it, and I guess I can control it. Yeah, there you go.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
First up, we head to Jackson County, Florida, for the trial of Zachary Wester. Former sheriff's deputy was charged with 67 counts of racketeering, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances. Wester's accused of planting drugs in a dozen vehicles during random traffic stops.
It appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that? I do not.
All of the drivers denied owning the drugs, but yet most were subsequently arrested.
You have the right to remain silent.
The arrest caused suspicion internally, and in 2018, Wester was suspended. 3 years later, the case went to trial. He pleaded not guilty to all charges.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power, about the abuse of the incredible trust that we all put, and we have to put, in law enforcement in a society.
The prosecution relied on the defendant's own body cam footage to help argue their case. Stephen Van, a convicted felon, had recently gotten out of jail when Wester supposedly found methamphetamine in his car.
Have you ever seen this before? No, what is that? I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car. You're gonna go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay? Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything, what you want me to do, man?
Like the other drivers who testified, Van gave the officer permission to search his car because he claims he had nothing to hide.
And I knew my truck was clean. I knew it was.
While the jury got to watch most of the traffic stops, some recordings had mysteriously disappeared.
Why in the world would that have been deleted? I wish I knew that answer.
Ironically, body cam footage would become the strongest element in the prosecution's case, especially when it came to Teresa Odom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
At first, the officer's polite, even playful.
Anything in the vehicle I need to be concerned about? Bombs, hand grenades, rocket launchers? Okay.
While Odom stands behind the vehicle, Wester begins his search. Notice as he prepares to put his gloves on, there's a small item in his left hand. Prosecutors argue that Wester is palming a small bag of meth, which he claims to find next to a spoon in the vehicle.
Miss Odom.
It is yogurt, sir.
I know. Okay.
It's yogurt.
How about this, though?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Now, the white small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video, had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
As far as motive, the prosecution claims the 28-year-old officer was ambitious and wanted to move to narcotics as quickly as possible. Wester testified he never planted any drugs.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
And after 5 days and several witnesses, the jury was
Sure.
asked to render a verdict. If Wester's found guilty on all charges, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. After 7 hours, the jury returns with its verdict.
in the state of Florida versus Zachary Tyler Wester, we, the jury, find as follows as to the counts charged and the information. Count 1, guilty of racketeering as charged.
The clerk went on to read the verdict on all 67 charges.
Count 7, guilty of official misconduct as charged.
In total,
67 charges.
Found guilty on 19 charges.
Count 9, guilty of official misconduct as charged. Count 10, guilty of official misconduct as charged.
Including misconduct in the arrests of Van and Teresa Odom. 11 of the 12 drivers filed civil lawsuits against Wester. In July 2021, he was sentenced to 12 and a half years in a state prison.
Thanks for being.
See those outrageous sentences and stuff? And notice as charged. So let's talk about the plea agreement. They come in, they charge you with one crime, and then they try to plea it down. That's fraud. That is fraud. That means that they're dishonoring the original instrument that they're charging you with. See how that works? That is fraud, dishonor. If you bring a claim and you can't stand by it, sorry. I'll never plead deal. Never. Never. Nope. You brought me in on that charge, you better be able to prove it. And they won't be able to do it anymore. Like I said, I'll go through that jury first. You can't get enough people in that door to find a jury of my peers. Won't happen. Every last one of them will fill that ID that court requires. Court requires you to.
The reason I showed that video is because I knew somebody that was a cousin of one of the people that got arrested for that. You know what I mean? And it's just sickening. You know what I mean? That these cops think that they're supposed to be, you know, at least that you think they are supposed to be, you know, helping the community and doing good and being good, but you know they don't. And it's freaking sad, man. And then puts people in us the situation where we got to learn our rights. We got to learn to plea or not to plea, you know, and basically take, direction from a lawyer, you know, that really doesn't give a shit, you know?
Yeah. And that's another one of those things that I've learned over the years when I showed you that financial document from the court. You know, I talked about the Treasury offset. You know, I call it the Treasury offset program. And they tell me there's no debts, public or private. So what is the local county courthouse doing? Well, they're offering up a debt of some sort. So who do I deal with? Do I deal with the Treasury offset program or the Bureau of Public Debt? So like I said, they gave me an option here, and all I got to do is fill in the obligee and the payer. Well, the payer would be the Bureau of Public Debt, and the obligee would be myself. There's the obligor number. There's the firm name. And I'm telling you, I was never qualified as a firm. And when they converted it, they made an error just like I made an error. So let's forgive everybody. As long as we repent and promise not to do it again, we should be good, right? So let me see them put in another document of financial index and converting everybody from a living man to a firm. See, that's the true repentance. They can't do that. They have to keep entering the data elements as they are given to them. That's why I say you got to quit going in there and giving them that data elements. It's not what you're supposed to be doing. Remember, comments. If you're going to put comments on their papers, that's invention, fabrication, and fiction, and they'll prove it. I can prove it too. I don't see what the problem is. I'm in agreement with their courts now. That's the funny part. That's what took them for a swing. That judge looked at me, do you understand English? And I vehemently, yes! How dare you? I was a kid walking around with dictionaries all my life. Of course I understand English. Fucking wake up. No, you don't. English is a colored language, and in order to comprehend English, you have to follow it to its roots so you know what's exactly being said. Because I'm telling you, it is not behave, it's behave. It's not knowledge, it's knowledge. Pay attention. So let's look at that.
Hey, you got a chat member in there, Special K. I noticed a while ago she posted in the chat about withdrawing herself from with her driver's license. I wanted to show her. I wanted to show her my my driver's license. Remember what I just did, Keith?
Yeah, the UCC thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a step, right? I mean, it's somewhat better than nothing. Yeah.
Let me see here. How do I do this? There you go. And I'll show you mine too. See on the bottom there, it's kind of blurry, but what he did was put UCC 1-308, correct? Reservation of
Yeah,
rights.
without prejudice, UCC 1-308. Because I went in, not everybody cares, but I went to get my veteran stamp on there, and they do it for free. And I was like, no shit. So I made them do it for free just so I can re-sign my driver's license to get that on there.
There you go. See, there you got a smart man. When he's making an amendment to a contract, he makes an amendment on both sides. Excellent job. So preemption.
I owe it to you.
Yeah,
I owe it to you, buddy.
When they want to look at me and ask me for an ID, I got to tell them I don't have one unless you're looking for a bicycle driver's license. And of course, that would be my own invention, fabrication, and fiction, and not the state's.
That's a pretty outdated picture there.
Yeah. So it's a matter of using your old noggin, knowing what's out there, knowing what you can do to be preemptive, and set people up in this situation where we're supposed to be working with each other and not against each other. So when you come against somebody, you've got the upper hand.
You want to see something funny? It's not supposed to happen, but you can do it. Let me see if I can. I don't want to give away my information, but so concealed weapon, medical marijuana, and my driver's license. So having your marijuana card and your concealed weapon card, it can be done.
Oh yeah. See, people just don't they don't realize that those civil rights are almost as powerful as your natural rights. And as long as you know how to contract, every last one of them comes with public accommodation. I don't know what I'm talking about though, do I, Steve?
No, I appreciate you, man. Like I've been studying on my own and just trying to learn my own, but it's so awesome to be able to bounce off questions of rights, freedoms, and to have somebody who's so versed in it. It's priceless, really.
What's the entry point? Like, if I don't know shit about whatever, the things that fly out of your mouth don't make sense to me. What's the entry point? Just start reading UCC or
birth registration, enumeration at birth, 5 USC 301, United States Code 301, and you'll read 3 things in there. There you go. He's got a good one. The UCC code. and there's like 3 books on the UCC that you can get.
I actually bought that book recently. I haven't read it yet.
Good read. You need to. It's going to give you a lot of understanding on the paperwork and everything. Yep.
I've been reading that, and I got my Black's Law dictionaries.
Yeah. And when it comes down to it, that 5 USC 301, that's got 3 things mentioned in there. One of which is, is that the 10th edition, Steve?
11th.
Oh, okay. There you go. See, up to date. Even got the 11th, the newest one out. So 5 USC 301 has 3 things that it mentions in there. First and foremost, I want to make sure that it's clear. It says specifically, even though it wasn't repealed, it is applicable to Department of Defense. It doesn't say Department of Defense and other agency, the United States or anything, Department of Defense. And then in that 5 USC 301, it's the departmental administrations, talks about executive offices, military agencies and branches and stuff. The enumeration at birth is what you go through at that spell of illness at the hospital. And the minimum birth registrations is what's required, minimum birth registration requirements is under 5 USC 301, along with the Plain Writing Act. And this is telling us that when you read the Plain Writing Act, everything's got to be in that 7th grade level. And that's why I like the U.S. code at LIIWEX. When you go to that code, it's in plain language. A lot of it's going to be written out by the titles. You can go through that code, read the titles, and pretty much tell what it's going to be about. Obligations are the securities of the United States. What are you doing trading? What do you mean trading? Well, you're using Federal Reserve notes, an obligation or other security of the United States, to buy stamps. Another obligation or other security of the United States. You think you're buying stamps, and in fact, you're trading. Okay? If you can't figure that out, I don't know where else to lead you. Because that enumeration at birth under the Plain Writing Act is applicable to the Department of Defense. That's their fiat currency, and I'm using it all day long to trade back and forth as if though I'm a trustee. How does that work? I've never been assigned a trustee. Well, you claimed a resident. You claimed the resident, not them. That's your error. Quit doing that. So let's look at the rest of the hearsay stuff. Hearsay in the next sentence says, as a result, hearsay evidence is generally not admissible in court. However, there are exceptions to the hearsay rule, which are explained below. And that is what I said. If you have a will and testament, that's not hearsay. Just because the guy passed away, it's not hearsay. That's his last will and testament. You can't say that's hearsay and enter it into a probate court, you dumb fucks. The execution of a will intestate is to be done outside of court. Just like it says here, hearsay is an out-of-court statement. An exception to the rule of hearsay, they're saying, is the will and testament of a living man that's no longer alive. So therefore, they get to enter that into their court. No, no, no. That's an ex parte communication, which is a private communication, not even within the realm of a court. Why? Because it is its own court. Court age. The man was of age to provide his own court when he wrote his own will and testament. That was his court. You can't assume a real court in your fiction court. Listen to the words I'm speaking, folks. Hearsay rule is the rule, not a law. And why do we not pay attention to their rule of hearsay? Because Scripture tells us to minister the word. And if we go to our brother and minister the word and he does not hear, we go back and bring a second witness. Prohibiting hearsay out-of-court statements offered as proof of that statement from being admitted as evidence because of the inability of the other party to cross-examine the maker of the statement. This is the importance of the execution of that will and testament by the legacy heir and no one else. Somebody outside of the legacy heir to administrate the estate would have his own interests and bias against the estate. And thus we see people of such carrying out those estates in the probate court so they can make as much money on the estate probation and drying that estate up, sucking its lifeblood out in the administrative courts. Same with your old folks' homes. When you send your old folks to the old folks' homes, they're drying up their estates because you don't know how to manage it as legacy heirs, you dumbasses. It says there are a number of exceptions to the hearsay rule, including present sense impression. You express yourself and it makes an impression. This is your First Amendment right, supposedly, to express yourself. And like I said, it's a matter of getting up and moving as well. You press your feet into the ground, and to impress them, you need to express them from that place and then impress them again. And it's the now time, not in first person, second person, third person, past or future tense. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, another book I would recommend. Excited utterances. Remember, I've mentioned that before. Declarations of present state of mind. What state are you in? Paul and I mention this all of the time. I am not in Iowa State. I am not in the state of Iowa. The present state of mind I am in is in a gospel. Go spell it. You get me now? Do you hear me now? Dying and the business records exceptions. So when somebody dies, there's an exception to the hearsay rule because they've got business records that administrative court wants to get their hands on so they can suck that business dry, as well as things defined not to be hearsay, admission of a party opponent and prior statements of a witness. So let's look at Article 3 hearsay. The factors to be considered in evaluating. Coin your words or purse your lips. If you don't know what you're saying, then you shouldn't be saying it. Remember, any comment, whether written or spoken, is known by definition to be an invention, fabrication, and in fiction from the origin. The difference between comment, communication, the conveyance of a debt, and message. When one is old enough to lay something on the table, the mess hall, the mess table. You know, when you get done taking all of the value out and you still have a mess to clean up, moose. What is the value of what you're putting on the table? When you get away from that table, is it going to be clear? The testimony of a witness are perception, memory, and narration. 9/10 of the law is a ration. Morgan, hearsay dangers in the application of hearsay concept 62 HL revised 177 1948. Selected writings on evidence and trial, You can read it for yourself. I'll drop these links. Let's go on to the next one. Rule 803 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. Exceptions to the rule against hearsay. The following are not excluded by the rule against hearsay, regardless of whether the declarant is available as a witness. And like it said, present sense impression, a statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while or immediately after the declarant perceived it. Not 5 days, not 3 weeks, not anonymous tips. Excited utterance, a statement relating to a startling event or condition. Hallelujah! Made while or immediately after the declarant perceived it. Love the God. I perceive him in every breath I take. Let's go down to 3 says the existing mental, emotional, or physical condition. Existing physical condition is an exception to the rule of hearsay. That means that anybody making any comments, written or spoken, cannot be taken for their word unless they see me eye to eye, face to face. How's that for face value, image, and likeness? You want to put your balls on the table? I will. Let's go down to 16, which is the other important one. Notice they're striking some of these words and stuff. This is one of the reasons I like LII Wex. They'll show you some of the things they're going through, the changes. 16, statements in ancient documents. A statement in a document that was prepared before January 1st, 1998 and whose authenticity is established. And I'll remind you that Public Law 97-280 is an exception to the rule of hearsay, and it is the year of the Bible. Thank God to Ron Reagan, wherein he stated that the 1611 version of the King James Bible and its scriptures are the law of the land. Hallelujah. Back to the panel. What do you think, guys?
Well, the Constitution being the law of the land, making it unlawful for any laws that abridge any of our rights. I have the Supreme Court case down here somewhere, but, if you use that like mentally, like especially when you're going to court, like when you believe like your rights, and you can prove that's what you believe in, doesn't that hold a lot of water uphold for courts to hold, because they have to hold those that.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words, and I pray to a frog god. And if you want to watch me go out in my backyard where I made my homemade pond, and I have a frog from the pet store that I worship every day, and I go out and feed him and offer, give him sacrifices, flies and insects and stuff, you can watch. That's literally the same thing.
I would like to watch that. I'm also interested in learning more about joining.
You want to worship the frog too?
I might be interested. It's definitely enticing.
Yes. Brooklyn, Texas, I have one of those. What do you do with these ancient documents? This is why I say I speak about the spiritual context, and etymology is the roots of the words. Etiology is the roots of the causes, and epistemology is the root of the knowledge. So I screw a lot of people up, even when I talk about them four corners of the earth. And I bring in the fact that the three Abrahamic religions are based on the Hebrew language. So Hebrew, the language itself, is an ancient language. The only one that still exists in use today is the ancient script. So rather than going to Islam, Judaism, or Christianity, I go to Hebrew. And the thing that fucks most etymologists up on that is the fact that I will go beyond that and ask them about the spiritual intent that the cavemans purported in their cave walls. What about that? Well, how come the etymologists don't transliterate that? Is that too hard for them? I mean, it's just pictures, right? That's pretty ambiguous, though, and that's their problem. Everything comes from their observances, which is pretty ambiguous. Your observances cannot possibly be mine.
That Supreme Case Law, Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, 394 U.S. 147, 1969. Basically, persons faced with an unconstitutional licensing law, which purports the requirement of a license as a prerequisite to exercise of that right, may ignore the law and engage with impunity in exercise of that such right. So driving, weapons, dogs, fishing licenses, it's good to know those, because you may need them to defend yourself,
Yeah. And that's, again, that goes to that spiritual origins. Everybody believes in that Second Amendment right, your right to bear arms. And I urge everybody, it's all upside down and backwards. So when you look at it, it's not your right to bear arms, your right to armorial bearings. It's your right to armorial bearings. And that means to be that which you are, to show your talents. When somebody professes armorial bearings and they put up that flag, that's their heraldry. We were talking about Jesus herald Christ. Somebody mentioned that on Paul's show earlier. Heraldry is what you're expressing to the world to impress them of your talents. So when you have this coat of arms and it's got a sword up there, it's telling them that you're a warrior, that you go out on the battlefield. Whereas if you put a pen up there, it's telling them that you're a literal and artistic creator. You're not a destroyer. Two different messages. I urge people to look into it. That's the importance of expressing yourself. That's that homemade stamp. So simply, red border with the heraldry, the coat of arms, a private file number, a measure of value, and a prepaid and an account number that they already have. And that's the only element on there that they had that they could go by was I put down prepaid number and then converted the number on the back of the Social Security number or Social Security card, and that's the only element that they know of, and that's the only number they could look up, and they looked it up through the Postal Service. They didn't go to the United States Administrative Courts to look it up. They looked it up through the Postal Service. What's that telling you? Who's regulating the Social Security Administration if that's where that card or that number appears and it's a Federal Reserve routing number? Who do you think's regulating them both? Who do you think gets to dip into that IMF fund first? The Postal Service as a universal postal union, or the Federal Reserve as a central bank of the United States and a few other certain countries? The Postal Union. You know what that Postal Union is? That's a labor union. Keep being a common carrier for them. Service of process, accepting their proprietary information of service. Keep doing it. I'm telling you, that's your error. That stuff's not supposed to be going to you. You're not the trustee. You're supposed to be going to the Bureau of Public Debt. So anyway, I dropped those links. I'm getting the video links now. I'm going to drop my PayPal link one more time. And I hope everybody will share some love and appreciation there by hitting the like, share, and subscribe buttons as well. All of it helps. I don't care if you're sending 10, 15, 20 bucks. Every little bit helps. Do what you can. This is what we're here for, is to help each other in every venue that we can. And I hope I'm able to expand your open minds to help you see what's going on. And thanks to people like Steve implementing some of this stuff, showing others that what I'm telling you is true and correct. I think Dee Dee's looking at correcting that DD 214 one of these days and operating it as a discharge to that Bureau of Public Debt and everything, aren't you? I know that's clicking in the back of your mind.
Well, I have a family, children, wife, you know
all those.
I have responsibilities,
Well, all those credits you work for paying into that system all those years under employment in that military. Those are known as insurance credits. So it's a matter of converting those credits, setting up your electronic payment system account, and letting everybody know you're the boss. You're administrating that account. And the co-trustee is the Postal Service. And if you ever have any issues with an out-of-balance account, it's their duty to reconcile it within 3 days. Or research and resolve it within 3 days. And this is all of their codes, their policy. And establishing that private or that payment system account, that's much like establishing a Fidelity account. So what I'm working on is establishing the deposit in that account as a silver certificate. Got a few more pieces of silver to do, and then I can write up my certificate and deposit the silver in a third-party escrow, private, non-interested party, and we're set as far as I know. It's express trust.
So like you said, your trusts are so important, man. And I didn't realize just how important trusts were. You hear a lot about trusts, but until you listen to people like you, Paul and everybody else, on these streams talking about trusts, I got to get my assets protected first before I start, removing myself. It's going to be a long, drawn out process. I mean, I'm young, I'm only 46, but so that's where I'm at now. Rights and freedoms, but that's all aside. Now I got to get my trusts, everything, assets, property, all that good stuff taken care of, because I want to make sure my wife is, taken care of if something happens. But after that, then it'll be methodically doing everything I can to get out of the jurisdiction. You know what I mean?
Right. And as far as I'm working on, when I have that silver certificate, I can deposit that in that account to create that credit standing, and then I can deposit my website as proprietary information through that unique identifier. So all I got to do is deposit that unique identifier into the account, and then, like my bike, that's custom build, and I can use that unique identifier, attach another little identifier for the bike, and then draw up a description on my site for the bike with that specific identifier with pictures and everything. And that number is the only thing that would get deposited in that account. And it would just be a reference number that would show the facts that I've already posted that nobody can deny. That's where you find the truth. You put your record publicly on certain things so you can have them documented, and then you transfer that document number. So I could have literally certain information on all property I have, the laptop, and I can just attach a unique identifier and then correlate it in my private record with the identifier that it came with, like the truck. If I had a truck, I'd put the VIN number in there, but it would now be identified as a new unique identifier. That way, if they ever had any issues and needed to search it by their number, they could search it by their number. You know, it's still going to have that number, but as far as public records, it's now identified by my unique identifier, and they can't do anything about it. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Steve, appreciate it. Like I said, you're one of the guys I see putting that stuff to work and coming up on the platforms, being able to show it. And I see that your family is the one that you're wanting to protect, and I see that is the main motivation. So the patience is key, and we got to give you time. Like I said, nobody can do this overnight like I did if you've got a family. I don't have.
I scared the living shit out of my wife. I told her all this stuff I'm doing. What are you doing? What are you talking about? And I was a little overzealous, you know. And of course, you know, once I get more educated, it's like, all right, babe, don't worry, you know, don't worry.
Yeah, and see, I found this guy named Wizard. He's got YouTube. It's all good.
Yeah. Well,
he's got a bicycle license with a really old picture of him. He yells at the camera a lot sometimes and cusses, but
well, see, that's one of the things my family disowned me for, is because I do those kind of things. I'm going to be a kid at heart all my life, and I found that the best way to express that is by being a kid. So, you know, compliments to the bicycle driver's license as an adult, you know. But anyway, I certainly want to thank everybody. Special K, not really here. Chris, Miranda 26 writes, Harry Nutt, always glad to see you again. Laura.
Harry Nutt.
Yeah. Well, Harry Nutt used to have a little issue with me, and we all have to change, and I've seen a change in them, and I hope they see a change in me. You know, that's, you know, a lot of times.
I was just laughing at the name. I don't know who it is. I was going to say I saw Harry Nuts earlier, but.
Well, it's like I tell Jack and them all the time. You know, it's these rough relationships that when you get through them, that make the solid ones. So, you know, I don't ever mind all the hassle. You know, when people see me getting all upset, hey, that's part of me. That's part of you too. I see other people getting upset. And like I said, I will manipulate. I will go out in public and use a sack and talk to it and manipulate people, and they won't even know it.
What?
You wanna think I'm crazy and insane? That's fine. If I want you to leave me alone, I know how to do it. I will act crazy and insane.
You know, I was wondering earlier, now that you mention it, about whether you actually know what you're talking about, or if they just don't fuck with you because you're too much of a headache.
Well, think about it, brother. I've got over 600 videos on YouTube, over 800 on Facebook. I've been doing this all from the start, and they pulled my Facebook video from my first stop when I first started doing this, and they were arresting me. I posted that, my first video. So they knew in court, and they pulled up my video, the condensed version. I said, no, I'll show mine, the whole version, unedited. I entered it into evidence so they wouldn't get away with that. No, you're not going to chop my video up. I created that. I will enter my video. And from that day,
and I said that sort of in jest, but I do wonder that about myself sometimes if they don't fuck with me with the warrants, because I've got so many. They would take too much paperwork for what it's for.
I guarantee you, they watch me to this day. I guarantee it. They filed a protection order on me while I was in my last court case and renewed it 5 years in a row.
That's impressive.
Now, if you look at the U.S. code, their own code says that full faith and credit is given to protection orders. So they gave me full faith and credit 5 years in a row, yet they still posed that I owe them some 8,000 some debts. Yet when you call the Treasury Offset Program, they say there are no debts, public or private. So who's lying? Me, the local county, or the Treasury Offset? They're the only ones that say that someone owes them a debt. I say I don't owe them a debt, and the Treasury Offset says they don't owe that I don't owe them a debt. That's two witnesses against their one. How they expect they're going to win this game? See what I'm saying? So it's a matter of what I know. It's not because they just don't want to deal with me. It's a matter of what I know, and every time I turn around, I'm pointing this shit out to them. How do you expect to get over this insurmountable mound of evidence that you're fucking with a witness? Huh, Daddy? You know what I'm saying? Every one of us is a witness. And by using our own comments against us, which are known to be inventions, fabrications, and fictions, as if though they are true and real, that's blasphemy. That's lying on your brother knowingly. Period. It's sickening.
That's their job.
Well, that's their job security. It's the only way they can maintain their job is to keep people convinced that you belong in them courts. I'm sorry, but that's a volunteer position. Service of process. In order for the court to obtain personal jurisdiction, they must first serve the defendant in the state in which the court sits. And that's not or if or but. It means and. That means there's two elements they have to fulfill. And the defendant needs to voluntarily appear in the court.
What's that? Give me a section or a code on that one.
Personal jurisdiction. Let me pull it up and I'll drop the link.
Cool.
Well, hey, Keith, good show, buddy. I'm glad you had me on. Good chat. Thanks for keeping me further educated.
Yes, thank you, brother.
Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, man. Take it easy.
I'm sure I'll see you guys on some other panel.
Yep. I'm getting ready to go see what Jack's doing. I have no interest in Jack anymore, but to see if Paul's
Daddy's on with Jack, and so was Moose. So there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh my God, you guys have got to stop calling other men daddy. It's terrible.
No, he's not my daddy.
You know who I call daddy on my platforms, but when I go to Paul's, it's just a play thing. It's his platform, so I'll be glad.
It certainly seems playful.
Yes, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's entertainment. Like I tell everybody, this is for my entertainment. It really is. Entertain mentality. Mentality, the holding of my mentality. Enter into the hold of my mentality. It's my entertainment, my thoughts. That's all it is. Both coming and going. The expression, the impression, and everything. Transgressions, regressions, progressions. Just thoughts. Just thoughts. None of it's real.
All right. Peace, brothers. I'll see y'all.
Be good.
Thanks again, guys.
All right. Well, if you're wrapping it up, I'll take off too. Thanks for sharing the good shit.
Yep. Appreciate you being you, Flowstate.
Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. And folks down in chat, again, appreciate it. Let me grab my PayPal link in case anybody wants to share some love real quick. I don't know what happened there last time. Oh, I see what I did. So there's that real quick drop in case anybody wants to share some love. And again, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get outside and do my thing out there. But I'll also be bringing videos from out there too. You never know. I might break down on my bike and be able to do a video on the breakdown and fixing it on the go or whatever. Fishing, wildlife hacks, survival hacks, things like that. So help me out. I'll help you out. All of it's knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So thanks for paying attention. Thanks for soaking it in. Please hit that like, share, subscribe, and make sure that you're sharing this out in your own world as well, not just on this metaverse. If you know it, it's now time to take a duty upon that, start spreading the word. And that word isn't just about God, it's about truth. Always be truthful. If you want truth, you got to bring truth. Have a good day. Love you.